Hey, I hope everybody's doing well. Welcome back to Life with Al. This past week has been a struggle for me. My mom had a doctor's appointment last Wednesday, and it really knocked the breath out of me. And the next day I realized, I think that was a STUG, which is a sudden temporary upsurge of grief. And I think I'm just now finding my footing and getting back into the ebbs and flow, of this life with Al. So I want to share with y'all in a few minutes kind of the details of what a STUG is, what it looks like, and hopefully offer some encouragement if you ever experience this. But first, I just wanted to share that last Tuesday I had posted a video, and I had titled it, Don't Lose Hope, Caregiving Gets Easier. Well, it was only up maybe about an hour or two, and I got a text from a friend who said, this video is really wonky. And so I played it, and my voice was completely like several seconds out of sync. Halfway through, another video started playing. I don't know what went wrong, but tried to edit it, couldn't, so I deleted it, thinking I'll just repost it later in the day, or worst case scenario, I'll post it tomorrow. Well, Tuesday afternoon, my mom wasn't doing well. Tuesday night, we already had a doctor's appointment Wednesday. And Wednesday, like I said, it was not a good day. And since then, I just have not felt like I was emotionally grounded enough to post. And, I said I want to keep it real. And I do, and I'm sure I'll be tearful in some future videos. But my goodness, nobody needs to see an ugly cry, for the whole video. I've had several shower weeping sessions. But anyway, the other reason I could not post is because I thought I cannot recreate that video because, my goodness, I said, don't lose hope, caregiving gets easier. And I do go over reasons, that providing the direct care really does get easier with some of the stages. I thought, that's not true. That's not true. It's getting harder, and this is going to be the worst. And I was actually glad it had been deleted. But now that I've had some time to process, I'm like, no, there was still some very valid points. So my plan is to kind of recreate a shorter version of that, hopefully later today. But I also want to share that I am not going to be posting every Tuesday. Part of the bad news was that my mom is now on hospice, very unexpectedly. And so obviously my priority is her, which I know y'all all get. So I actually think that I might be posting more often, but shorter snippets, maybe 2 to 5 minutes, just to, if I have a thought and I think, oh, I'll remember this now. This might be helpful for somebody or might encourage somebody, this little thought that I'm having. And so I'm just going to be posting more randomly. So if you would like to be notified of when I'm doing those posts, please push the subscribe button that you should see right over there on this post. And that way you'll be alerted or get an email letting you know that I have uploaded a new video. So having said all that, last Wednesday we went to the doctor, and I knew, I've shared that my mom has something going on other than Alzheimer's. But we had been going each month. We go to the doctor. He refers us to a different specialist. We've been to 4 different specialists now. Nobody can figure out why she's losing blood, why she's so anemic, why she has wasting syndrome. She's lost 70 pounds in 6 months. Just heartbreaking to see. But I don't know what I figured, quite honestly. I knew there would be a time when they would say, okay, we're not going to have an answer. And that was the day that our physician said, you know what? We shouldn't just keep putting her through tests. We will probably never know the reason, but it's definitely time for hospice. And when he said the word, I felt like the breath had been knocked out of me. And I know that sounds bizarre. I mean, my goodness, I've been in hospice my whole life. If anybody should have been prepared, it should have been me. But I honestly thought that originally when we combined households this summer, I thought we were going to have a couple of years. I thought I was going to be able to work for a while, and things have just gone so much faster. And so I should have been more prepared, but I think I was willing myself to kind of stay in denial that, not that she had Alzheimer's, but that whatever else this is going on was not going to take her, sooner instead of later. And his exact words were, there's something really sinister going on, and he did not feel like she'd be here in 6 months. So when he said that, I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me, like I said. And I was trying to keep my emotions, in check in front of my mom. And I was walking to the car, and a friend called and this is a friend I had called earlier in the day, had not talked to her in years, but anyway, just needed to share something with her and get some information. And so I picked up the phone and she said, hey, Susan, this is Rhonda. And I was like, who, what? And she said, Rhonda, and she said her last name. And I said, no, who are you with? Completely disoriented. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks while I was talking to her. And I just started crying. And I said, my mom's been referred to hospice. And then the tears just came. And, STUG stands for a sudden temporary upsurge of grief. And that's what happened. It was just on me, and I just felt like I couldn't get my footing. If y'all have not read C.S. Lewis's A Grief Observed, and you're struggling with feelings of sadness and loss, I encourage you to do so. In it, he talks about when he lost his wife to cancer, he felt like it was more fear. And he said he didn't know that grief felt so much like fear, because he felt like he was terrified with the heart palpitations and not being able to swallow. And he knew there was, not a valid reason to feel afraid. Yes, he knew he should be feeling sadness and heartbreak, but the fear is what surprised him. And I think that's very valid, because in that moment, I felt like my adrenaline was up, and it was like I was just trying to wrap my mind around it. Which again, I know was bizarre, because I knew my mom had been declining, but hearing the word, it was just like what STUG stands for. It was sudden, and it was temporary. It passed, and it was this upsurge of grief that was just overwhelming. Because those of you who have lost a loved one know that typically STUGs come after the loss, and it can come years and years later. For example, we can hear a song, or something triggers a memory, maybe a smell. You just have something that triggers you to think of that loved one in a very deep, affectionate way, and all of a sudden you feel like you lost them yesterday. Okay, that's a STUG, and then it's just so intense. But what we have to know is that does pass. And then we get back into the ebbs and flow of grief, which again, it's still hard as we're grieving those little losses, like I've described, losing those little balloons along the way, and sometimes bigger, more significant losses. But still, it's manageable. Grief really does. People talk about the rhythm, the tidal rhythm of grief, because it kind of comes in waves. But even though it's coming in waves, some of the waves are harder, and that you feel like they're crashing in on you. But overall, the tide is going out, and that's your healing. Okay, I'm healing, I'm finding my new normal, I'm getting my footing, but there's still these waves of grief that come. With a STUG, it's described as a tsunami. It just knocks you down. You lose your footing. Often people are disoriented. C.S. Lewis, in that book, A Grief Observed, describes it as it's like a sheet comes between me and reality, where voices are muffled and, but just becoming disoriented. Like when that friend called, that I had left a message for her, and I honestly, in my mind, could not even think of who she was. And but then, of course, it came right back to me, but the grief was still there. And so Wednesday night was hard. And as I was processing that, though, and like I said, I've worked, not that I'm not still grieving, obviously, but I think I've worked through the hardest part of it. But last night I was laying in the bed, and I thought, my mom's still declining even this week. I thought, what if it's just a couple months? What if it's not even that long? The hospice nurse said it's just so unpredictable since we don't have a definitive diagnosis. And honestly, I don't know. I was going to say it would be easier if I knew, because I don't know, just not knowing why that's frustrating. Maybe it wouldn't make a difference. But regardless, last night I was thinking, I've just got to hang on to this bouquet of balloons, just like I described in my first video, just who sweet Gladys is. I don't want to let go of this yet. I'm not ready. And I just started thinking, maybe I need to loosen my grip. Maybe we shouldn't be hanging on so tight. I mean, I know when it's time to say goodbyes, that's when we really release them and the final balloon, drifts away. But maybe I need to start loosening that grip now. And if you're at a place to where you're just like fighting to hold on, and I tell you what, I go back and forth with this, but I do know we have to hold on and milk the joy out of every day, the way I said initially. But I also know that there's a difference between letting go and giving up. And back when I was a hospice social worker, and people sometimes would say, I just don't want to give up on her. I'm not ready for her to be a DNR. I want her to be resuscitated. I just want to fight for life. And I get that. But that's why I typically use the words letting go, because giving up has such a negative connotation. Somebody says we're giving up, in the general sense, it means we're not going to have the victory. We're just conceding. But if you think about it more as letting go, that indicates, okay, it's just time to rest. We don't need to struggle. We don't need to fight. We don't need to be wrapped up in this tension of stress. It's not giving up. It's really just letting go. And so that's what I'm focused on this week, is letting go. Not that I'm ready to say my final goodbye by any stretch, but I think I can, loosen that grip to where I'm not bound so tight with stress, trying to figure things out. Why is she losing weight? Why is she so anemic? I need to let go of all that and know it is what it is. And with my faith, I believe that God's going to be faithful to get me through each day with the grace and strength, to face what comes. So I just, my hope and prayer for you is, first of all, if you experience the sudden temporary upsurge of grief, the STUG, that those will be far and few between. And when you do, I pray that it would be very short-lived, and that you don't feel like you're just being bounced about by the waves and hitting the bottom of the ocean. That I know as children, y'all probably experience that, where you just feel like you're out of control and being tossed to and from. I know it can feel that way, but just know that it's temporary. And my prayer is that it would be very short-lived, and that we can all find our footing, and that we'll be able, to hold ourselves upright, knowing, okay, we can do this, because we are all so much stronger than we think we we are. And like I said in my video that was deleted, we never know what tomorrow's going to bring. It may be easier to provide the care. It may be brighter, and it may be even emotionally easier to start letting go of those balloons. And, for those of you who are in the beginning of the journey, that may be hard to hear, and it may be your season to be holding on tight and milking the joy out. So I know all of us are at different places. But whatever stage you are in this whole life with Al, I just hope that you will be reminded that this is a season of our life. And as hard as it is, this too shall pass. And I hope in the meantime that you are able, like I said, to find some hope and to still find some joy in your day. And so until next time, take care.